people tend to put people on pedestals.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely don't want to be on no pedestal because people on pedestals are easy to topple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people tend to make somebody larger than life. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
We prop Africa Bambaataa up with so much
And now look, yeah.
accolades that,
Yeah.
you know, the people around him was willing to ignore the reality and the money, you know, just for the money and the fame.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to stop that shit.
Yeah.
You know, the entertainment industry, they knew exactly what Diddy was and what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
They knew what Russell was doing.
Yep.
They know what Bambaataa was doing. You know, and these things become normalized and mainstreamed by putting these people on pedestals. And I think that's whack. And I tell young people all the time that we really don't need leaders because we don't need y'all to follow nobody. We need you to learn how to follow your own instincts and lead your own life.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
We just need to be living examples of the shit that we talk. We should walk the talk or shut the fuck up.
Amen to that.
Yeah, that was like as well put as you could do it. What was that kind of shit? That super grimy, low down shit. Was that did you see that creeping in the early '80s already? You know, where leaders taking advantage. It was there, huh? Just there, right?
What do you think hip hop comes from?
Well, I'd like to think it doesn't come from that.
It's from the streets.
Where hip hop comes
I know
from.
It comes from the streets, but yeah.
Broken glass everywhere.
Yeah.
People pissing on the station, though. They just don't care. I can't take the smell, can't take the noise, got no money to, but rather got no choice. Rats in the front room, roaches in the back.
Junkies in the alley with the baseball bat. Yeah.
That's real. Hip hop came from that. That's our reality.
Yeah.
We lived in Beirut. We lived in the Gaza Strip. We lived in the war zone. We lived with rats, roaches, landlords that burnt the buildings for the money, for the insurance money. Mm-hmm. You know, that was our reality. It's amazing that anything good came from where hip hop came from. But we were able to use that pressure of the socio-political and economic realities, and that pressure turned the raw coal into diamonds.
Y'all know it takes a special track to do this. I'm on my P's and Q's, dripping sauce. It's just the fluid, it's the chef. I'm here to remind y'all I'm sick with it. My name is stuff that's hot, it's ubiquitous. Meaning it's one and the same, simple and plain. I'm all about my paper, the bacon, cheddar, and pain. I got these lanes running for the border. The talented Mr. Porter, keep it flowing like it's water. But here we go, there we go, creeping to a low speed. Is it him and his friend sitting in the nosebleeds? Play it cool, he ain't special just cause he's on TV. Everybody's hands up, acting like they know we.
Welcome everybody to another episode of the Taste Music Hear Food podcast show. I am your host, Ed Porter. This is the place for food, music, and culture and how they all connect. Today's guest is one of those generational talents, a true pillar of all things hip hop, and I am ecstatic to sit and talk to him. So before we get started, I have to give this man the flowers he so gratefully deserves. Okay, here we go. Before the thought of hip hop museums or TV specials, before it was global, before it was raw, it was righteous, it was real. And standing at the heart of it, helping shape its soul, was this man. From the South Bronx to the stage of Latin Quarter, he wasn't just a witness to the culture's rise, he was the architect. He opened doors for legends that walked through, helped X-Clan give voice to a movement, and now, as the chief curator of the Hip Hop Museum, he's ensuring the story gets told right, with love, integrity, and truth. This man didn't just ride the wave of hip hop, he built the shoreline. It's an honor to welcome a living library, a cultural engineer, and one of the truest voices of preservation, the architect, Mr. Paradise Gray.
Hey, peace, my man. How y'all doing out there?
Good. Did I do good, sir? Did I do good? Everything good, Dice? Okay, all right.
Yeah, you murked it.
Yeah. We got to look out for
Too professional.
Yes, sir. So again, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. This is a long time coming. We can't have this show is specifically about food, music, and culture. And as we've talked offline about these things, and these are definitely pillars of what hip hop truly is. And we couldn't have that conversation without talking to you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
It is a must. So let's just jump right in and let's talk about your origin story. Let's talk about the Bronx. Let's talk about the South Bronx. Let's talk about how, as far as the origin of what we know hip hop to be, you were in the cusp of all these things happening, and the masses don't, they know a few names, right? They know Kool Herc and they know these things, but we know that might be like Kirk and them might be the second generation of what was to be and what was. So speak to me about the origins and of how it all came to be and how you went from just being a participant to knowing that this is the wave.
The beautiful thing about the story of hip hop is that there's no beginning and no end. As a beginning, there's many beginnings, and depending upon where you're from and where you're at, you may have a different origin story to me. Not to say that your story is wrong, but they say that I'm a historian. And I used to believe that until recently, when you learn things that you didn't even know. So I'm not a historian. I'm a my story.
Exactly.
So I don't know about telling the story that everybody else tell. I just know what I saw, what I heard, and what I lived.
Right.
For facts.
Right.
And I've been lucky enough to save the receipts of the culture so that anything I say out of my mouth is the proven fact.
Absolutely.
I grew up, I was born in North Carolina, a small town called Washington. And when I was 4 years old, my mom moved me, my brother and sister, to the Bronx so that we wouldn't grow up picking cotton and tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
And the building that I lived in, 1715 Bruckner Boulevard, which should go down in history, as well as 1520 Cedric and Cedar, because in my building, a gentleman by the name of Disco King Mario lived.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are like, oh, he was disco. There would be no hip hop without disco. In fact, if you look at 80% of the old school hip hop flyers, you'll see the word disco on them.
Right.
And if you find a flyer from hip hop before 1979 with the word hip hop on it, I'll give you $2,000 for that flyer.
Well, first off, the word disco that represented a place. That was a destination. Yes. That wasn't so much as far as the genre.
Music.
Exactly.
To other people, disco was a music, and in their mind, they see a white woman in a white dress, high on cocaine, spinning around at Studio 54.
Yeah.
Not us.
Right.
We had a different definition of disco. The disco was just a continuation of music. In fact, most of the music that we call disco was funk and R&B, and there would be no hip hop without the disco sound. In fact, in 1979, almost every single rap record that came out that year was a sample or a replay of a so-called disco record.
Right. Yeah. So,
So in that building I lived in was Disco King Mario, and I lived there in the Bronxdale projects, hanging with the Black Spades and learning from them. And then I moved to a community on the west side called Highbridge. And I lived on 165th. And there was major DJs that lived in my community. And a lot of people may not know those names either. Yeah. But a DJ John Brown, who was the DJ that inspired Kool Herc.
Go look at that.
And there was CC Howard, DJ Tony Rome, Lefty, a whole lot of DJs nobody ever heard of. McLeod.
Right.
And the big man of all of those was a DJ named Pete DJ Jones, who was also a foundational disco DJ who also played breakbeats and mentored Curtis Blow, Lovebug Starsky, Hollywood.
Oh, wow.
And I said Curtis Blow, Disco King Mario, Hollywood, and Lovebug Starsky.
Okay.
So
we
had like so incredible of the the foundational DJs in our community that it was ridiculous. Every day somebody new or somebody old would be coming out with their equipment.
Right. And at that time, I could, in my mind, I would believe there's probably only a handful of DJs that could travel, that had the name and had the equipment to be able to travel around the city to do that. So if you was one of those few, you had to, you had to be the guy.
Pete DJ Jones was the top of the barrel.
Okay.
The two most popular DJs that were mobile DJs at the time was Pete DJ Jones from the Bronx and Grandmaster Flowers from Brooklyn. But also in my community in the Bronx, there was a DJ named DJ Smoke, aka Smokey from Smoke and the Smokatrons. And he was the guy that used to battle Herc.
Wow.
Everybody heard about who Herc turning the knobs on DJs and winning the battles by drowning them out.
Yeah.
But nobody ever know who the heck was the DJs that Herc was drowning out.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And also in my community in Highbridge was the Grand Imperial DJ JC. And in my opinion, the Grand Imperial DJ JC and Grand Mixer DXT were the two best DJs back in the day, followed by Grandmaster Flash and Grand with the Theodore. And, a lot of people don't really know that history.
Yeah.
But JC and DXT, they were actual drummers and percussionists who also played with live bands. So their hands
it's different.
were ridiculous with the
in their ear.
dexterity.
In that ear. Yeah, they got the ear. So
and they were the first ones to really use the turntables as percussion instruments because they were really percussionists.
Yeah, that's crazy. So and it's funny to hear that, especially for me. So I'm from the Bronx. I'm from the Northeast Co-op area. And so like Bambaataa lived in my building. So when I was a kid, Bam, in Zulu, it was huge for me. And that was, very much a take on just soaking it up. I was, kid that just wanted to break and go writing and all these different things. And I was just immersed in the culture of it all. So your nickname is the Architect.
Yes,
can you
sir.
talk to me about the early days? Because I'm pretty sure like when greatness is happening, nobody's thinking about, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, this is going to be XYZ. When these things were happening, what did you think about them? And then how did you know enough to start archiving things? Because you got stuff of the culture that nobody has, that you just had the foresight to okay, this is going to mean something someday. So I'm holding on to it.
Actually, I didn't even think about it like that. I give credit to my brother, my big brother. His name was Coach Green. They called him in the Bronx, but his name is Michael Green, rest in peace. When other young guys had big brothers that were showing them the streets, my big brother was showing me the universe. When other big brothers were taking their little brothers up on the roof to shoot guns, my big brother was taking me up on the roof with a telescope. He was a interesting character. He collected stamps and coins. I couldn't get into that. Then he started collecting comic books. That was my ticket.
I was a comic book guy too.
He was a comic book collector, and I was a comic book reader. And that's oil and water.
Yeah.
They don't mix.
Yeah,
so I had to start collecting my own comics because I like flipping through them and reading them. And that's what attracted me to hip hop flyers back in the day. That the hip hop flyers reminded me of comic books. Grandmaster Flash,
Yeah.
Grand Wizard Theodore.
Yeah.
The hip hop universe was like the Marvel and DC universe to me. You know, come on.
Yeah.
Flash,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah. Listen, they.
You know, so they had those flamboyant names like the comic books.
Yeah.
But you would never see comic book characters walking down the street.
Yeah.
In my hood, you could see Melly Mel walk down the street. You could see Grandmaster Caz.
Yeah. And they look like superheroes too. I mean, they're back, especially
so they was
back
like
then.
real life superheroes to me.
Absolutely.
So I collected the comic books because a lot of them had incredible art. You know what I'm saying? And I got into the art because my brother was also an illustrator and an artist.
Yeah.
So I loved the comic book art. I got some flyers from back in the day with Iron Man on the hip hop flyer, Spider-Man on the flyer.
That's crazy.
You know what I'm saying? And the characters that they were drawing on the flyers, that was the only place I could see media that looked like me.
Absolutely.
You know? Until Fat Albert and Good Times came out.
Yeah.
And I really, I love Good Times, but to me, it don't never look like they ever had a good time.
Yeah.
I don't know who named that.
Absolutely. Let's talk. You just touched on it a little bit about X-Clan. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the debut album. This is when, for me, this was a pivotal point for in my life because, as you said, representation is everything. X-Clan was one of those groups that for me in that time, specifically that time in hip hop, where the pro-black era was everything to me because it was the first time you saw articulate, well-spoken, very prideful, powerful black men. And that to me, as a young black kid, was everything. Everything. So, To the East Blackwards was definitely something that spoke to me. And matter of fact, I told you, we talked about a couple weeks ago. I remember you came to Kips Bay, and I was one of the kids at Kips Bay, and y'all spoke to us, and I will never ever forget that. There's a handful of moments that were very integral to me being prideful of who I was and what I wanted to be, and you guys have a very, very strong stamp in making that a possibility for young black kids. So talk to us about, that debut album and what that meant and, what were you hoping to awaken, in people through that music? I thought specifically that was an offshoot or very much our, Panther movement. That whole entire thing, that was, it was powerful.
Yes, well, I'll give that the credit for the vision to reach out to young people and help teach us and train us to my elder, Sonny Carson from Brooklyn. I was at Latin Quarters when I met Lumumba Carson, his son, who wound up being Professor X in my group, the X-Clan. So I met Brother Jay, Sugar Shaft, and Lumumba at the Latin Quarter. And after the club closed, we became X-Clan due to us being affiliated with hip hop and rap music, and Lumumba taking me to Brooklyn to meet his father, Sonny Carson, who was famous for the autobiography that he wrote called The Education of Sonny Carson and the movie by the same name. He created a council of elders from many different walks of life. We had a Hebrew Israelite elder, an Imam elder, a Baptist priest elder, a Catholic priest elder. We had one of the firstborn from what we called the 5% Nation back in those days, now called the Nation of Gods and Earth. And we just was able to vibe and learn many different chambers of Black knowledge and history from these elders. So we just took that knowledge and we put it on wax. Plus, the amazing thing about that album is Grand Verbalizer Funkin' Lesson Brother Jay was 17 years old when he started writing that album.
That's crazy.
And 18 when he spit.
That's crazy.
And I'll give that credit to Brother Jay's father. May he rest in peace. His father did such an incredible job educating his son.
Mhm.
And we were blessed to be able to come together with, the four elements that was Lumumba, Professor X, the overseer,
Mhm.
the grand verbalizer, Funkin' Lesson Brother J, the rhythm provider, Sugar Shaft, and me, the grand architect practitioner, Paradise. So all of us added our own ingredients to the soup that
Absolutely.
wound up being chicken soup for the black soul.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you just touched on another point that I definitely want to talk about because I think it's the one thing about hip hop that I that has to change for me. So hip hop has been one of those things that we do not revere our elders. And to hear that that's how it used to be, like every other culture, every other genre of music, you have the Rolling Stones might be on tour next year, right? And this
Yep.
with hip hop, it seems that like we put our elders out to pasture and we try to act like they don't have the knowledge and the understanding that they do. When, as you clearly just said, all of the knowledge is held within and with the elders, and that's who you should
Yep.
revere and get closer to.
Yes. And the movement set the tone for us. So we wound up being the theme song to the movement.
Absolutely.
At the time in New York, it was a horrible time. The Central Park Five,
Mhm.
the Larry Davis case, the Diallo case.
Mhm. Dahmer.
Yusef Hawkins had recently been murdered.
Yeah.
So we had to stand up and do something. The pressure was on us. The socio-political and economic realities of New York City was upon us. But we didn't just come out the blue with it. We were able to build on the intelligence and articulation of Kool Moe Dee and Grandmaster Melly Mel
Mhm.
and the storytelling of Grandmaster Cats.
Mhm.
We were able to use what they did as a foundation. And people could talk about Mount Rushmore. Like, when the hell did Mount Rushmore become some kind of grand measurement of anything in our community?
Right.
People ask about top fives and stuff like that. Well, my top five MC, Master of Ceremony, is Marcus Garvey,
Mm-hmm.
El Hajj El Malik El Shabazz, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.,
Mm-hmm.
H. Rap Brown, and Muhammad Ali.
There you go. There you go. What?
And, the people, when you speak of respecting our elders,
Mhm.
for us to say that hip hop was created in the Bronx in 1973 from nothing
Mhm.
is a great disrespect and untruth. We would not exist without James Brown, George Clinton, Sly and the Family Stone,
Mhm.
Rick James, the Ohio Players, Earth, Wind and Fire, the Last Poets,
Yeah.
the Watts Prophets, Gil Scott Heron,
Yeah.
Amiri Baraka, Sonia Sanchez, Nikki Giovanni.
Yeah.
We stand on the shoulders of giants. Speaking of respecting our elders, we got to really realize that hip hop is not new.
Right.
The only thing we created in the Bronx was scratching.
Yeah.
Everything else began at the beginning of time.
Right. Right. Why do you think? And what do you think is going to change the way that the elders are revered, specifically in the culture of hip hop? Because that's not the way that it was intended to be. What is it gonna take for the generations that are coming up to really gravitate and hold on to holding our elders up, to gain the knowledge, but also to pay them the due respect, to really put them up there in their rightful place, because every other genre does that, but because of our culture, it's more important to make sure that those things happen.
Right. I think that the problem is our values. What do we value and what has value?
Mm-hmm.
During the last 30, 40 years, money has became the thing that has the most value. And the great master Bruce Lee once said, these people are so poor, all they have is money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we define what value is and what worth is to be more than just money that's not worth the paper it's printed on, then we will understand. The industry don't give $30 million contracts to Public Enemy, X-Clan, the Poor Righteous Teachers, KRS-One.
Right.
They give the $30 million contracts to Young Greasy, Young Grimy, Young Liar, Young Thuggy Thug Thug.
No, you're right.
You know?
You're right.
So much that you got grown-ass men in their 30s and 40s calling themselves Lil and Young.
Right.
And you understand? So they're bending our culture away from respecting its elders. You know, the Black community and culture is more than just drug dealing, thug dealing, guns and roses in the street.
Right.
You know, so if you look at what's happening nowadays, the young boys that sell dope, they looking at the older people that are their customers. They kick them in the butt. They don't respect them.
Right.
They talk to them however they want. A lot of older people, honestly, don't even deserve respect. You know, we have to step into our eldership because you got elders and you got olders. And I'm not mad at young people for not knowing what we don't teach them. We have to do better, particularly the hip hop generation that's in their 60s and 50s. We have to clean ourselves up. How you gonna get respect when you look the way you look and you act the way you act?
Right.
And when we did not reach back and mentor these young people. These young people, their reality is that the same older people who were supposed to protect them and educate them and teach them and provide safe spaces for them, those are the same ones that molested them and treated them bad.
Right.
And have them that threw our young people away. We can't throw them away and turn the other eye and look side-eyed at them.
Right.
We have to respect them in order for them to respect us.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. You can't, you don't know what you don't know. And that's a fact.
And you look around, Kendrick Lamar is probably in his 30s or 40s now himself. But we look at him as a young man.
Yeah.
But hip-hop is in good hands when it's left to our children to create it. But as long as we got these record labels middleman in us and robbing us and paying people to recite the most
heinous things,
disgusting, heinous things about each other, about our children, about our women, then we're going to be subject to somebody else's colonization.
Yeah.
We have to decolonize hip hop, take it back to the beginning and make it independent. We don't need somebody in New York, Atlanta, or LA to sell music to the dude that live around the corner from us. When we unbuckle ourselves from our old slave masters, because then we'll have an opportunity, because ain't no official home of hip hop and R&B on no radio station. The official home of hip hop and R&B is in the chest of everybody that breathes hip hop, eats hip hop, and performs it in their everyday life.
Yeah, for sure. What's the wildest untold story of one of those nights during the golden era that still makes you shake your head? Like, I know you have 1,000,000,001 stories.
Exactly. That's so difficult. There were so many of those nights. You know, I guess the Latin Quarter event that we did a Jackie Robinson tribute. And we had come together and we had a whole bunch of superstars performing at Latin Quarter so that we could buy a headstone and put it on Jackie Robinson's grave. And that night, everybody came out. LL Cool J, Run DMC, Houdini, the Fat Boys, and all the new school cats. It was crazy. The club was so packed that by 10:30 that night, this is like 1987, 1988, we were already charging $100 a head to get in. The club was so packed.
Oof.
And the 50 Cent and the A-Team and the Brooklyn Zoo decided that they were going to snatch change that night. And 50 Cent tried to snatch Jam Master Jay's chain. And just put it this way, that the Hollis crew wasn't having it.
Yeah.
So we wound up having a 2-hour melee in the club. Chairs, bottles. I mean, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
One time a RoboCop was swinging a katana. Like, dude, really? You're swinging a samurai sword in the club?
In the club, yeah. In the Pack Club.
And then the night ended with a gunshot or two, and that emptied the club. So that night was like really, really hectic and bananas. But,
that is,
we were able to survive that night and continue on. But so there was a lot of craziness that happened during that time. But at the same time, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we were organizing what we call the Meeting of the Minds at the Latin Quarter. And Tribe Called Quest, the Jungle Brothers, De La, X-Clan, Poor Righteous Teachers, Chuck D, KRS-One. A lot of us were Q-tipping, and we would all come together and we would meet with different elders, James and Tume, Edwin Birdsong, Zulu Nation, a few of the different ministers from the Nation of Islam. And we would just talk about what we could do to organize and stop the violence in hip hop. And those meetings wound up turning into the Stop the Violence movement after Scott LaRock got killed.
Absolutely.
And it led to the creation of the song Self-Destruction, and later on the Black Watch movement, Brand Nubian, Poor Righteous Teachers. We started getting a real foothold in the culture. And that's thanks to the Nation of Gods and Earths, the Nation of Islam, the Zulu Nation, and all the different young people that came together in New York to really take a stand. Because remember, at this time, we were also fighting against apartheid in South Africa. Nelson Mandela was still in jail. So there was a lot of pressure on the international Black community. And we were fortunate that we had Poor Righteous Teachers, which we call all the street soldiers, that was on the street handing out lessons and trying to improve knowledge of self.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What do you believe the new change needs to be in order for the ideals of what this was based on and what is important? Well, how do we get back to that?
Here in Pittsburgh, I'm one of the founders of an organization called One Hood. And my partner, Jasiri X, he had an after-school program at Taylor Alderdice. And I had an after-school program in a church called Almost Home. And we wound up merging our thought patterns and working with young lyricists and really working, like if you listen to the average 15, 16-year-old, he's talking about he got keys from overseas and he got all these guns and all that. And we used to look at them like, come on, bro, you're an A student. You come to school every day. When do you sell drugs?
Right.
When do you carry guns and pop them? When we stop allowing thuggery and the streets to dominate our culture when it comes to entertainment, that's when we'll be able to really get a good handle on it. When young people could just be themselves and have safe spaces to practice, not just the rap. That's the problem. We just got the rap element. We're not practicing the dancing and the graffiti. But the reality is that there are young people that practice every single element of hip hop.
Yeah.
But the camera don't look at them.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, we got to do what Kendrick said: turn the TV off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we did hip hop in the streets when there was no one on TV that looked like us.
Right.
We have to return to those times. You know, we got to get back outside, and we got to go back inside ourselves and determine that money is not the be all, catch all. Money does not make you wealthy, and money does not make you healthy. In fact, the entertainment industry will be happy to maintain the status quo,
Mm-hmm.
to pay the few of us a whole lot of money, keep the rest of us broke, and keep us chasing the bag.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what's wrong. It's all fake.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Everything that looks good ain't good. All that glitters is not gold.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of fool's gold out there. And the entertainment industry will make you believe that these people are living it up. Meanwhile, the fakest MTV cribs, you know, with all that Cristal in the refrigerator and no food. You know, 5 cars in the driveway. If you look at the license plate, all the cars got the license plate. You look up the license plate, it's a car rental service.
Mm-hmm.
And the person on Yo MTV Rap don't even live in that crib.
Exactly.
That's rented too.
Yeah.
We got to determine what's real and what's fantasy. And, you know, understand that the entertainment industry will sell you a fake dream, give you all the drugs you want, all the sex you want, all the Sodom and Gomorrah you want, and take you on a wild ride.
Yeah.
And by the time that ride is over, you sitting on the curb, homeless and broke.
Yeah.
And they walked away with your publishing and your money.
Yeah.
So we got to be careful about that. And young people, handle your business. Don't let your business handle you.
Yeah. Yeah. We definitely.
And you don't need these middlemen.
We got to get back
between
to
you and your money.
Yeah. We got to
create your own, capture your own, develop your own fan base. And don't worry about somebody else ripping you off and how much they're going to pay you. Collect your own money.
Yeah. We got to be stewards of the culture. You know,
It is.
we have to, you know, so many times we are participants in the culture that we created and not benefactors of the revenue that is generated from it.
Period.
Let's talk about the Hip Hop Museum. So that's set to open up, I believe, in 2026, if I'm not correct. What's your vision for the museum? You know, beyond the exhibits, beyond all of the what is your pie in the sky goal and vision for how that shakes out?
Well, to be honest, I'm not building a museum for 2026. I'm building a museum for 3026. When all the personalities will all be dead and gone. Mm-hmm. What we leave behind will be the judge of what we created and what we lived. So what I'm trying to do is not pass judgments, but to collect everything, and the good, the bad, the ugly, and put it in an archive. And also remember that for me, the Hip Hop Museum is not about what we put on the walls or what we put on display. It's about the people behind those items.
Right.
You know, so I want to just tell as many of the stories as I can and allow the people themselves to tell the stories. Yeah. And let those stories speak for themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're in this digital age and there's so much information, but not a lot of it is archived. Not a lot of it is saved in the manner in which to preserve. How do we ensure that today's hip hop doesn't vanish tomorrow? And do you deem it worthy of preserving?
Absolutely. When people say hip hop, they don't really mean hip hop. They mean rap music. Mm-hmm. And our culture is more than just rapping. You know what I'm saying? But even rappers, there has to be better filters. Mm. You know, back in the day, we had the greatest filters in the world. The independent record labels were great filters.
Mm-hmm.
We had Red Alert, Chuck Chill Out, Marley Marl, Mr. Magic. Those were the filters.
Yeah.
Nowadays, all so-called black radio is not us. They not like us.
Right.
You know, it's being programmed from one central position, and the playlist everywhere in America is the same playlist. There's no local music anymore. There's no local playlist.
Right.
Why should I be listening to guys that sound like, you know, speaking languages that I don't even understand? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I live in New York. I want to hear Nas. I want to hear my rappers in New York sound like Jay-Z.
That's a great.
I don't want to just hear.
That's a great point. That's a great
brain
point.
dead, low intellect music all the time. We need to bring a balance to what we allow our children to listen to. And as long as we have people like iHeartRadio that used to be Clear Channel, that was owned by Bain Capital, that was owned by Mitt Romney, as long as those guys are the ones who are, programming our music, it'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Yeah. If the early days was a call to consciousness, like when X-Clan and PE and Poor Righteous Teachers and all of you guys were doing that work, what is hip hop asking us today?
I don't know what hip hop is asking us, because, like I said, I deal with hip hop. I believe that is higher infinite power healing our people.
Mm-hmm.
And some people don't feel that way. Some people think it's just a way to make money.
Yeah.
And like I said, when hip hop was created, there was very little money in it. You know?
Yeah.
People just have to decide for themselves, what do they want? And there's no teacher like pain.
Yeah.
And in the last 30 years, it was hard to convince people that we have been colonized.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody been thinking that we made it. You know, everybody was thinking that we overcame. Time to party and bull's crap.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But there's a new pain coming. And I'm sure and confident that our people will respond to the pain, and that the intellect and the creativity of our people will shine through. I have no problems with handing hip hop over to young people, because I don't just listen to mainstream music.
Mm-hmm.
I listen to local music. I listen to music from the diaspora.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of amazing artists out there. So you'll never really hear me complaining too much about the artists in hip hop or rap.
Right.
Because I don't allow Clear Channel or iHeartRadio to dig in the crates and filter me out and program me. I know how to find good music on my own. Until people stop being so lazy and going to these charts and playing what's on the top,
right,
then the music will always be bull crap.
And I'll give you some credit with that. And you just stated it. You welcome with open arms all the young up and coming artists, and you on many occasions have been very vocal about them being, very good stewards of the culture, specifically in how they're handling their business, because this is the age of independence for artists. And so you've been very vocal with being champions for the younger people. With that being the case, what does the next real investment in the next generation look like to you? How do we help them to continue on the work that they're doing, along with carrying some of the past, the stuff that is relevant to making sure that we can get to the next levels? What does that look like?
We have to create safe spaces, not just for the people, but for the entertainment and the music. If we build a stadium, so to speak, and lay out the rules, then the young people know what they're dealing with. But right now, what are the rules? There ain't no street rules. It's every man for himself. People snitch left and right. You know what I mean? There's no rules and no accountability.
Right.
When we create rules, laws, and accountability and hold ourselves accountable, then we'll be able to create a platform for young people to begin to hold themselves accountable.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, before I let you go, I want to play a little game we call the lightning round. And it's basically just a quick fire round. I'm going to give you a phrase or a word, and then you tell me the first thing that pops into your head.
Yeah.
Cool? All right. Which of the 4 pillars of hip hop, that's MCing, DJing, breaking, and graffiti for those who don't know, which one of those is the most vital to carry on the culture?
Wow.
Yeah.
I would have to say it's rapping, because rapping has the bully pulpit.
Yeah.
You know, the rappers have the bullhorn.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know, so they can influence the most people.
Okay. Great. Who had the craziest energy at the Latin Quarter? Hands down. No debate.
That's a tough one. But I would have to say Big Daddy Kane.
Yeah, Kane. Yeah. That's
Kane was the whole package.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kane had the look, the haircut, the jewelry.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marley Marl's beats.
Yeah, listen.
Biz Markie beatboxing.
Yeah, he's
Roxanne Shante backing him up, and the whole Juice crew.
And he could dance.
And he could dance.
Scuba Scrap, and he could dance. He had it all.
Yes, and he had to dance.
Yeah, he had it.
He was the whole package.
Yeah, Kane is tough. All right. Most slept on MC of all time.
I would have to say Grand Verbalizer Funkin' Lesson Brother J.
Yeah, Brother J.
To this day, I challenge anyone to find a more culturally revolutionary and relevant album than To the East Blackwards. The only thing that comes close is Public Enemy's Take a Nation of Millions.
Yep.
And Ice Cube's first album.
Yeah. Okay. What hip hop relic in your vault would start a bidding war?
I would say that probably my X-Clan collection. I have the original crown of X-Clan that I created as an architect. I have the wooden sticks. I have the beads, the jewelry. I have the red, black, and green flags.
Yeah.
That knowledge needs to be a college course.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay. What's more sacred, the first bar or the last beat?
The first bar or the last beat? What do you mean by sacred?
As far as what people gravitate to or hold on to, what's more important in a song? Is it the first bar or is it the last beat?
I think it's the first beat.
Yeah.
The first 20 seconds. When I was digging in the crates, or still to this day, if I put your song on, you don't catch me in the first 20 seconds.
It's not happening.
The beat have to be the key.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, because a lot of these so-called rappers can't even rap a Christmas present. But the beat is just so ill that it doesn't even matter.
Got you. Okay.
You can say,
yeah, and if
the beat is right,
there you go.
It's going to work.
Absolutely. Okay.
Oh, for an example, one of my favorite lines in hip hop doesn't even have a rhyme in it.
What's that?
It's
oh yeah,
yeah. Rest in peace to my man Powwow.
Yeah, hey.
You know, he was in the booth. It was his turn to rhyme.
Soul Sonic
and
Force.
He forgot his rhyme.
Soul Sonic Force.
And instead of saying words, that's what he said.
Yeah, and it's classic. Yeah, to this day. Great point. Great point. All right, you're building a hip hop museum wing with 3 items. What are they?
Harry Belafonte's 1984 NAACP Image Award for Film of the Year for Beat Street,
Okay.
which I just so happen to have right here in the box behind me.
Wow. Okay, that's one.
I would also love to have that car from that film with Kool Herc driving around with the two speakers in it.
Yeah.
That car with the two speakers in it would be dope.
Yeah. The convertible.
Yeah. And the turntables that Grand Mixer DXT used 1984 Grammys when he performed live with Herbie Hancock Rocket.
Wow. Okay. That's huge. All right.
That was one of the greatest moments of my life.
That's awesome. What's the wildest thing someone tried to pass off as hip hop history?
That the first party of hip hop and the birth of hip hop was August 11th, 1973. That flyer.
Yeah.
It's fake.
What do you mean by fake?
It's an index card that's handwritten. It was in Joe Gonzo's book, Born in the Bronx. It's a fake.
Okay. Y'all heard that out there. It's a fake. All right.
Me and my partner, Prime Minister Pete Nice from Third Base, we have real index cards from Kool Herc's parties in 1973. And beat this, we have index cards from Herc parties in 1972.
Yeah, so it couldn't be the first. There you go.
I'm saying.
Yeah. All right. You got to cook a dish that represents the culture. What's on the plate?
Wow. That would have to be a whole different thing. I'd have to have some curry and jerk chicken on that plate.
Mm-hmm.
Some grits and cornbread on that plate.
We need a big plate. We need a big.
Arroz con glandules.
Yeah.
Pollo.
Yeah.
It had to be a banquet.
Yeah.
Hip hop is the whole meal.
The plate has to be a table. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Got you.
I will not bring a sandwich to a banquet.
Yes, sir. All right. Here we go. Top 3 DJs who could still shut the club down tonight.
Oh man. Once again, Grand Mixer DXT. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I mess with my man Kid Capri big time.
I love
too.
Kid Capri.
And man, I miss Jam Master Jay.
Yeah.
So I can't say him because you said still rock the party to this day.
Right.
And if I had to choose any DJ to play any party for me, it would have to be DJ Red Alert.
Yeah, Uncle Red.
Yeah, boy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. In one word, what's hip hop missing right now?
Us. The only thing that we don't have that we had during the golden era of hip hop is each other.
Yeah.
We had the Latin Quarter. We had the Fever. We had Roseland, the Roxy, the Palladium, the Rooftop, Empire Roller Rink. And on the West Coast, they had Skateland. In the South, they got all we need is a place to be and for us to show up, and that's all we need.
Yeah.
We don't need a mic. We don't need a turntable. We'll beat on the table. We'll beatbox.
Facts.
We'll acapella. We'll dance with no music.
Yeah.
We'll create art that'll blow Michelangelo away. We'll come up with a cipher of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that Frederick Douglass will be jealous of. The debates that we'll have with each other. All we need is each other.
That's a great point. Great point. And finally, I have a question for you. How do you want Paradise Gray to be remembered? Curator, creator, cultural protector, or something else entirely?
Manager, promoter, photographer, author, writer, mentor. Yes, all
Yeah.
of the above.
D. Here we go. Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, you are an amazing, amazing human, a continuous blessing to everything that is the hip hop culture, to so many people. So I want to thank you for taking the time to be on with us and to drop the jewels and gems that you have. And there's plenty much more. And you know me, I'm gonna be on your line. So we're gonna be rapping it. We got to do some things together as well.
Yeah, and like I said, you know, I love being on with you.
Yeah.
But this Zoom thing ain't no good, man. I can't taste
Yeah,
the
man.
food over Zoom.
Absolutely.
Got to be there.
I got you.
Got to be there.
We gonna link up and we gonna break some bread and we gonna have some times. We're gonna do it the right way. But
now we talking, baby.
Yes, sir. So really quick before we dip off, I gotta let everybody know where they can follow you and be more in tune to what you got going on out there. So give them your social handles and everything else you got going on.
You can find me at Paradise Gray on IG and pghhiphop.com.
Okay.
Big up to Pittsburgh, Wiz, Mac, all my Pittsburgh black and gold homies. Yo, we about to do this too. You know what I'm saying? I would like to leave with everybody that don't just leave it to other people to archive your music or your culture. Organize and archive your culture locally. Mm-hmm. That's where it means the most. Save your history. Tell your story. Hit me up. Let me know your hip hop story. I want to come to your city and help y'all organize. At Paradise Gray IG. Holla.
Absolutely. But again, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you. For everybody out there, this has been the Taste Music Here Food Podcast Show. Till next time. Peace.
MBC. No relation to NBC.